What's up? I'm Ronan. I'm one of the authors of Scratching Made Easy. It's a method book that teaches how to scratch using music theory and standard music notation. If you see me scratching in any of our videos, it might appear from the outside looking in that scratching came easy for me. The funny thing is, that's far from the truth. When I started playing out in Tokyo, it was a dream come true. I was living and DJing in the biggest city in the world, a DJ's paradise. Turntables everywhere, and a thriving underground DJ scene. On top of that, I was playing regularly in the heart of Shibuya. Looking back on it now, it was great, but it was actually one of the most stressful times of my music journey. Back then, putting sets together would take hours. I instinctively knew what songs went together, but I didn't know why, and it took me forever to find that perfect mix. When playing out, scratching and dropping records required deep concentration and laser-like focus. It was nothing like playing in a bedroom. Every place I played had a different setup. I'm not even talking about equipment. I'm talking about small things like the height of the DJ booth, the amount of space you had to move around, and the positioning of the computer stand. I never imagined that I would have to account for small things like that and the effect that they would have on my scratching. I never felt comfortable. Needless to say, there were weaknesses in my game and I had to fix them. So I started looking for answers. I bought DVDs and watched tutorial after tutorial, but never progressed the way I thought I should. The tutorials helped, but the skills weren't transferring. I was fine when I used the same records and scratch tool as the person I was imitating in the tutorials, but the skills didn't transfer when I used the records and sounds I wanted to use. I was trying to find answers to my scratching woes anywhere I could. So I reached out to my brother Jason because he had been studying music and percussion since he was in elementary school. We talked about music theory and my struggles. He gave me some really good pointers that really helped, and things got better, but I was still improving at a snail's pace. Something had to change. One day, I was having problems scratching rhythm, so I called Jason for some advice. We got into an extremely heated conversation, and he started dropping bombs on me. He had the nerve to tell me I didn't understand music. He said that I was struggling with timing and I didn't understand rhythm. Needless to say, I was highly insulted. Playing out was stressful, but I always managed to deliver, and I was known for putting together tight sets. I have rhythm. I know music. What do you mean I don't know music? We started going back and forth because I didn't like what he was saying. So, he being who he is, he told me to write down a rhythm and scratch it. Write down a rhythm and scratch it? I somehow managed to scribble down some notes on a piece of paper, but I couldn't scratch the rhythm. I was like, man, I can only scratch what I feel. It was the first time I had written down and played rhythms. On top of that, I didn't understand the concept or the terminology he was using. He started acting like I was being really sorry. He started talking to me like I didn't want to learn. I was being stubborn and I was resisting the criticism. But after a couple failed attempts, I had to put my ego aside. He made me come to the conclusion that I couldn't scratch rhythm because I didn't know what I was doing. I really wanted to learn, so I asked him what I could do to fix the problem. He said two things to me that I'll never forget. One, we couldn't communicate because we weren't speaking the same language. And two, the most important of all, theory is the equalizer. He explained that some people are naturally talented and scratching comes easy for them because they have a natural feel and understanding of rhythm. He said that theory is the equalizer. It allows those of us that weren't born with the natural gift of rhythm to learn how to do what comes naturally for that lucky few. With theory, you can write out with music notation the complex rhythms that the best DJs are doing and develop a learning process that allows you to do the same and eventually be creative and put your own touch on it. That's all I needed to hear. I wanted more. Jason sent me some elementary exercise with basic rhythms to work on. Within 10 minutes of practicing sheet music, I could see My timing was terrible, and I was having a hard time controlling the record and staying on beat. Then I got this crazy feeling in my stomach. I knew exactly what it gave me. It was the answer to my dreams. It was a roadmap, the tools for building a foundation. It took out all the guesswork and the mystery was gone. I could see the learning progression on the page and I could feel myself getting better with every line. That's when I came to the conclusion that most of the things I was trying to scratch were way above my skill level. At that point, I was struggling with step one of the basics of rhythm. I couldn't consistently play quarter notes on beat. That pivotal conversation led me to telling Jason that we had to write a book. I knew good things were going to come, but what's crazy is that the teaching method Jason designed transformed my DJing as well as my scratching. I was now able to start giving my mixes better structure. Another thing that changed was my ability to go in and out of genres. Scratching various rhythms from the book also gave me the ability to identify similarities in the rhythms of songs. I could now easily go in and out of two genres that I love, classic rock and classic hip hop. All this came from learning and understanding the basics of rhythm. At this point, you may be wondering, what are the basics of rhythm? Essentially, when we talk about rhythm, we're talking about beats and time. I can start talking about how music is subdivided, but at this point, that would be going into too much detail. Because more than likely, we don't speak the same language. In order for us to be on the same page, we need to speak the same language. Music theory is a universal language and it allows us to put our ideas into words. This gives us the ability to communicate these ideas with other musicians in a language we all understand. The notation allows us to visualize the rhythms. And if you can read the rhythms, you can play them. The crazy thing is, I've been exposed to theory when I was a kid, but I rejected it. When I was in elementary school, the music room had these bells on the desk with these red and green mallets next to them. The music teacher was always telling us not to touch them. Don't touch the bells! It was like torture. How do you tell a kid not to touch the bells every day, and then when you finally start playing, you start playing hot cross buns? That's how I recall the experience for years. But one day, I really thought about it. We didn't start off playing hot cross buns on the bells. We started off singing. Hot cross buns, hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. At this moment, I'd like to publicly apologize to my music teacher, Miss Margie. I was mad at her for years. I thought she ruined my music career before it started. I'm sorry, Miss Margie. I didn't know you were teaching us the basics. You were laying a foundation. Here's the thing. We know that nobody really wants to scratch just quarter notes or eighth notes, but that's where everybody starts. I had to go through the process in order to realize what Miss Margie was teaching us. She didn't want us to touch the bells because she wanted us to internalize the rhythm before we played it. She started us off with the basics of rhythm. I could go into a couple more stories of being exposed to music theory and rejecting it, but to make a long story short, I didn't have patience and I didn't understand what I was being exposed to. I just wanted to play. But the reality is, if you don't start off with basic rhythms, it may slow down your progress. You could be like for me and spend years scratching the same rhythms that you feel comfortable with over and over again, or get nowhere trying to play rhythms that are way above your skill level. All that changed after Jason developed the teaching method. I started making consistent progress and I wasn't feeling stuck and uncomfortable anymore. And the setup of the DJ booth no longer fazed me. I had a skill set I could finally depend on. The wildest part is the teaching made it possible for me to be in front of you right now. Here's the thing. We believe that anyone can get good at scratching. It's not about talent, which is your dominant hand or which is your fader hand. It's not about practicing hours and hours a day. All you need is the right step-by-step roadmap that shows you how to build your skill set and how to make consistent progress. Once I had the roadmap, it made learning how to scratch fun. That's why we wrote Scratching Made Easy Turntable Method. It's a comprehensive learning system based on music theory that took us 10 years to create. Our system is based off traditional music notation. The way we teach you how to scratch is essentially the same as how you would learn a traditional instrument like the piano. The method helps you to make massive consistent improvement in as little as 15 minutes of practice per day, all while learning the fundamentals of rhythm and how music works while using it in a practical way with your scratching. It worked for me, and I'm pretty sure it'll work for you. Check out this video and see for yourself. Peace.